see here in the I mean the good mark of El-Nino and La Nina effects on the as you see in the Australia and the main region of effect of the El-Nino and La Nina in the Western Pacific in countries like Indonesia, Australia, and so on. That during the El-Nino years they receive less than normal rain, and this one is actually in the La Nina. Just you see the opposite of that I showed you. In the La Nina years, this region receives more precipitation than what was receiving in the El-Nino years. This is just received from the ERA 5 data. It's for just 11 important La Nina and El-Nino cases within our history since 1980. And also in the Middle East, and also Pakistan, most parts of Iran, and also Saudi Arabia, and actually Middle East, North of Africa, and also East of Africa. Maybe you know that during the past 3 years, UN has warned about the drought and famine in Eastern Africa because of this effect. And El-Nino and La Nina has so huge effects on our continent. And this time, I just show you why this phenomenon happens. I mean, less precipitation, or less or higher temperature during El-Nino and La Nina in different parts of the world. As it shows you just the wind anomaly on the surface layer. You see that this one is the La Nina phase. This is the La Nina cases. As you see, in the North Indian Ocean, in the Arabian Sea, you see the easterly currents here, just in the northern corner of the sea. But in the southern parts of the ocean, the southern parts of the Arabian Sea, you see westerly currents. If you consider the Middle East, less humidity is receiving during the La Nina years. But when we look at the El-Nino years, the change of surface currents, you see very marked. You see more humidity, more currents from the sea surface toward the nearby continental surfaces, or as you see in the Middle East. Then these currents will have huge effect on the transition of humidity from the sea surface to if you look at the other parts of the world, we'll see the same effect. And this one shows the vertical wind shear and in subtropical jet position during the El-Nino and La Nina. The left hand shows the El-Nino, which we are this year, and the right hand shows the La Nina cases. As you see, the current changes. This one just shows the anomaly. This is not the real jet. It shows the anomaly or the difference between the normal and the El-Nino or La Nina cases. As you see in the El-Nino cases, the jet position is here in the southern parts of the Iran, over the Persian Gulf, and the Middle East, in the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia, Arabian Sea. And in the La Nina cases, it's a little bit higher. As you see, the position of the jet is higher. And here we see in La Nina cases, it's not easterly wind. It's just anomaly of the wind. That means the jet stream core will have, less speed, or less, it will be a little bit slower than in El-Nino cases. If you compare the occurrence of tropical cyclones in the northern Indian Ocean and between El-Nino and La Nina cases, we see less activity for the tropical cyclone in El-Nino cases. This is because of the increased jet speed in this region. Actually, when we have higher speed in jet stream core, it means that vertical wind shear is more stronger than what is needed for tropical cyclone development. Then in La Nina years, actually we see less tropical cyclones in the region. One of the key elements of developing of tropical cyclones in the region. Also, I have just copied a paper from which have been studied by Shipra Jain, and in October 2002. Actually, it's a good one for showing the El Nino and La Nina effect on the monsoonal effect in the region. Just I show you the last pages. This one is the, I mean, the last column, as you see, as my on the right shows the pictures between the neutral state rainfall in millimeter per day. As you see, these are the intensity of rainfall. In the La Nina cases, which is difference between La Nina and neutral, we see higher precipitation in the central and India. And in the El Nino cases, we see lower than normal precipitation. The last image, as I show you in the right hand corner, I mean right lower corner, as you see this image. Then you see huge effect between El Nino and monsoonal rain in the India. So do you remember last year's heavy precipitation in La Nina event in Pakistan, and also in Iran and Middle, and compare it this year's, which is El Nino is developing in a region. So you see a huge difference of between last year and this year's precipitation in our continent. This one just is Iranian calendar fall precipitation. As you see, we had many, fall and rise of precipitation in Iran. And this shows the ENSO phases with the December, January, and February precipitation in Iran. In different years, we have rising and falling precipitation based on the El Nino and La Nina. But it's not does have a one-to-one effect in Iran. But in some parts like India, it's very, this one just a QBU, it's a technical term. I just want you know to that this is not the El Nino La Nina, that this is not the only factor that defines the climate. We have other factors that are impacting our climate. So in forecasting, seasonal forecasting and longer term forecasting, we should also pay attention to other factors. This one just shows you the NOAA index, which is developed in North Atlantic and Central Atlantic Ocean. And that's was my talking. Sorry if I talked a little bit hastily and a little bit longer than due time. Excuse me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Had. That was a wonderful presentation, giving us the understanding of the El Nino and how it's affecting our region and the rainfall patterns. Thank you very much once again. Now I will give the floor to Dr. Vanessa, and she is the Deputy Director of Thailand Hub of Talents on Air Pollution and Climate. And she has been a modeler and a part of, she was doing air quality modeling for Asian disaster preparedness. She was also part of Department of Meteorology in COMSETs in Pakistan. And she was also working for EC mode as atmospheric modeler. So I may just quickly give the floor to Dr. Vanessa with the request to all the coming speakers that if we can restrain to 15 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much. I have been working out there in COMSET, so it's very happy to be back here, just even on the meeting. And also now, as our host Kali mentioned, that at the moment I'm working back in Thailand as a Deputy Director of Thailand's Hub of Talents on the air pollution and climate. And so this is a project supported by the National Research Council of Thailand. And still at the moment, I'm very happy to hear from the background a lot from our previous speaker from Iran, our director of the meteorological department there, which give a lot of background, because my presentation will actually likely to talk about the impact of El Nino on the air quality, which is actually my research focus, and also the interaction with the monsoon system, and a possibility that we can do something, and particularly that we can, as you can see in this slide, thank you, for this slide. This is the research we have been doing at the National Astronomical Research Institute of Thailand. We're using the data from the Pollution Control Department and trying to find a correlation between the air quality. This is from the station in Chiang Mai, northern Thailand, where the NARIT headquarters are situated. And also, in this case, we have had a chance to find a correlation. So simply to say about El-Nino and air quality is that whenever there is El-Nino, we're likely to have certainly the dry period. And so there is likely to be more of the burning, open burning, which is a big issue in northern Thailand and also in the whole Southeast Asia. This is example from northern Thailand. Next slide, please. Can you move on? Yes. And in this case, we then have the research focus on, particularly on the El-Nino year. But of course, we need the forecast, and otherwise the research will, like we're collecting the samples during the year that we anticipate that it would be El-Nino year. Of course, this one is from the research. Actually, this is not exactly El-Nino year. It's after 2000. This is 2018-19. So because, like dry season in Southeast Asia will normally be in the end of the year and the beginning of the year. So the worst scenarios for air quality in northern part of Thailand is in March. And so we have had a research campaign installing the LiDAR at the site and research collaboration also with Taiwan, the scientists from the Chinese scientists there. And we found that this is the research to find the aerosol and the planetary boundary layer interaction that has the impact on modification of the air quality. So it's not just that the air quality can get worse when it's dry, but the air quality can get worse when there's open burning, and this is the issue in the Southeast Asia. Next, please. So actually for this seminar, I looked up for any other research as well in Southeast Asia that has been just carried out. And I found this paper from Payus et al. My colleague Justin Senton also, they are in Malaysia. So actually in the southern part of Southeast Asia, they have also serious issue, and it's very much correlated with the El-Nino. So they have done this quality assessment and relation with El-Nino events. This is, can you move on, please? It has been published recently. And move on to the next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Actually, for this, is it possible to move? Hello? Okay, yes, good. Thank you. In this figure from that paper, it shows how serious things can be. This is the hotspots. These are the hotspots from a satellite image of hotspots during the only 10 days in September. So actually the El-Nino gets get hold of the problem in 2015. And then that is the data from the Global Forest Watch. So only over 10 days, but due to the very dry, unusually dry situation. So the peatland in the Indonesia and Malaysia all started to have a fire and smoke. This a transboundary air pollution problem in the southern part of Southeast Asia. So from this analysis in the paper, can you move on, please? They have found a correlation, particularly as the signal of El-Nino in the top picture. Very, very clear for 2015, and So there is a correlation with the high concentration over that and during that time period, as you can see on the bottom figure as well. So this is just an example of that is so important to be able to forecast the event of the El-Nino in order to get a right measure, get prepared. Next one, please. Next slide, please. Can you please move on? Because I like to discuss even further. Yes, this one is the research that we have just been carried out when I was working at Narit or so, because now we're trying to combine all together all the latest research. So we're trying to find out the roles of atmospheric aerosols on the climate change. So we certainly, from the earlier study, we saw that there would be some direct and indirect effects and also feedback on the monsoon, because monsoon is so important to the water security in South Asia and Southeast Asia. So this research was done with the support with collaboration with Chinese scientists at the Institute of Atmospheric Physics in Beijing. Next, please. Next slide, please. Sorry, because I cannot share myself. Yes, so we found the event that this is on the news. Also in northern Thailand, Chiang Mai, we have the worst air quality. So if you look in that year, 2019, when we started this research, it's not a very serious but still a pretty dry year as well. So the signal of El-Nino was there, not as bad as in 2015. Next one, please. Next slide. But I really like this kind of analysis, that we can do this oceanic El-Nino index. And so we can then identify from the satellite data. This one is from Calypso, and we have the comparison. We're using the model air quality modeling in order to do the assessment of this air quality. So we have compare and do the model validation at the on site. In this figure, just to show that PM2.5 was captured quite well using this model, Wolf-Kim, this one for both Chiang Mai and also the station in China as well, in Kunming in southern China. This has been published in Science of Total Environment in 2021 for this publication. So I just want to highlight to you the findings that from the model. Next slide, please. Yes, next one. Yes, we identified the problem during the 30 March and 31st of March, 8th of March, that it's the red spot actually is at the border between Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand, as you can see. And even in that case, in Laos, they don't have the ground station for identify the problem. But still, if we can spot the problem, then there are two models. One model, this is the result from Brian's Kim model, which is almost equivalent to Wolf-Kim, but this was run in IAP China. Next slide, please. So we have identified the extinction coefficient and also the modification of this aerosol radiation effect, so that we can see that we can simulate well the meteorological variables and the precipitation for during the time period. And particularly the aerosol radiative effect has been identified from the biomass, the biomass burning aerosol that we can identify, because the aerosols can come from many different sources. But of course, we want to do assessment regarding the black carbon that has impact on this radiative effect. Next slide, please. So in this table, you can see that there are we distinguish three different effects, both, which means that the direct and indirect effects of the biomass burning regarding the height of the PBL, which is the planetary boundary layer height, that will then translate into the amount of aerosols in this or the aerosol concentration of PM2.5. See, so of course this effect will also have resulting in a precipitation, because precipitation need the nuclei and the nuclei are the PM2.5 that we that was generated either by the natural and by the secondary particle formation processes. Next one, please. Yes, and so this just to summarize that finding, which we still need to do more research. From that, also you can see that composition of the PM2.5 is so important as well. So the more we have the black carbon, of course, then it will have the radiative effect. But of course, in the PM2.5, it has also the scattering part, which include sulfate, nitrate, and ammonia, and these are will have a different effect on the not only absorbing but also to scattering effect. So in this part, so we have the work is still going on in order to make a next research, in order to understand that this can have the impact on the monsoon system. So we set up, next slide. Next slide, please. We set up the continuing the Wolfram model, not only by the Narit. You can move on to the next slide. And then the King Mongkut Institute of Technology in Lat Krabang, and also in Thammasat University, where I associate myself with this collaborating center. CCC-ACC is the collaborating center for atmospheric, for the, yes, this is the work that they are doing at the moment in Thammasat University in Thailand. So to do the model study using the Wolfram original model, so that we can actually do a prediction and trying to integrate the aerosol that generated by this particular different event in this dry period. So at the moment, we are doing this model validation. Maybe you can move on to the next slide, because I will then describe that it's so important when we use the model, like Wolfram model, that, you know, like it is a community model. So anyone on Earth can do this. But of course, when we do this, we need to do model validation. This is the forecast 5-day validation for real-time forecast at the moment for Bangkok city. So we are trying to see in the next few months whether we can do, you know, like with start of the dry period, it will be a big issue in the cities, not only for Bangkok, but which is the capital city in Thailand, but also for the other cities in the northern part of Thailand. So I think we have in the last slide that I have here, and I want to conclude that this is the Thai Meteorological Department prediction for the moment, that we're gonna getting into a slightly El-Nino soon. So this is very similar to what was mentioned from our colleague from Iran. So thank you so much. If you can see the last slide, just to show that the latest this surface temperature anomalies for the Pacific Ocean. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vanessa. And thank you for keeping up the time as well. It has been a very wonderful presentation, and we were able to see the impact of El Nino, not on on the atmosphere or the precipitation patterns, but also about the air quality and its interaction with monsoon system. Thank you once again, Dr. Vanessa. Now we move on to our next presenter. That is Dr. D.B. Katal, and he is an associate professor in the Institute of Tibetan Plateau Research of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. And he's also a graduate of Chinese Academy of Sciences, and he has a work in the Third Pole region as well. So may I give floor to Dr. please. Dr. Katal, the floor is yours. You are muted, sir. Dr. Katal, can you unmute yourself, please?
Okay. Good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. Namaste and salam alaikum. Thank you very much for your invitations to share my views. And it was a very wonderful moment. I was spent about 3 years at the Kansas University, and it was also part of the important crucial time of my career too. This slide that I have prepared based on this is a brief review based on the contemporary researches about the El-Nino. That is, what is actually the El-Nino and what are the basic concepts and the host natures and what is the mechanisms and what is it has influences to the regional as well as the global climate system. That I have prepared this one, but unfortunately because of time I missed to include the relevant graphical illustrations in these presentations. This is actually, I divided in the basic general background of the El-Nino and its relationship with the monsoons. I briefly explained about the monsoon patterns, monsoon mechanisms and its relationships. What are the effects from the El-Nino and what are the global concerns and what would be in the future perspectives. This is in this way I have outlined these slides. Actually, El-Nino that is related to temperature, especially related to sea surface temperature, and actually it is a natural process, natural phenomena, and that they influence that changes the weather patterns worldwide, and it actually arises due to interactions between the ocean and atmospheres in the tropical Pacific. When we talk about the ENSO, El-Nino Southern Oscillations Index, we have to talk about its 3 phases. Then we have to mention these 3 phases are equally important in the climate system, in the weather system, in the monsoon systems. The El-Nino basically we define as the warm phase that we define as the abnormal ocean surface warming that with an above average sea surface temperature generally in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean. This actually occurs when the trade winds weaken or reverse their directions. The next one is the La Nino, is the opposite phenomenon of the El Nino. That's generally known as the cool phase, which causes the cooling of the same region with the below average of the sea surface temperature. And this occurs when the trade winds strengthen, causing the cold water to move towards the eastern Pacific. And the neutral phase, this phase is the surface temperatures are close to average. And generally, this phenomenon fluctuation periods is about 2 to 7 years. It is very crucial to talk about the monsoon system because this is a very important phenomena, synoptic phenomena in South Asian continent, because the billions of people's life and livelihood, the sustain of the billions of people of life and livelihoods depends on the monsoon system that occurs from June to September. This is also part of powerful monsoon of South Asia, and it comes from the two branches that we know, one from the Bay of Bengal and the other from the Arabian Sea. It is especially the precipitation that is enhanced when southeasterly moisture fluxes that originates in the Bay of Bengal and divert towards the north and interact with the southern Himalayan foothills, and then the precipitation occurs and basically in the foothills of the Himalayan region. And generally in the normal conditions, the local evaporations and the strong southwest monsoon winds bringing moisture from the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, which cause a heavy rainfall during the summer seasons basically in the South Asian continent land masses. It is actually the land mass or the decadal land mass, decadal mass varies spatially and temporally, even in the monthly and the multi-decadal scales. And it also related to the movement, north-southward movement of the intertropical convergence zone. It is the Indian summer monsoon is a land, ocean, and atmospheric coupled phenomenon of the intertropical convergence zone. Because due to in the subcontinent, in the large geographical areas, the monsoonal precipitations are varied with the space and time. And it is interestingly, the very monsoon seasons in the region is very unique. And they have it has the different spatio-temporal variability. Besides the variation of the considerable variability in the interannual and interdecadal. And the various and local and remote factors governs the rainfall patterns in the region, such as the monsoon trough, over the central monsoonal region, deserted dry climate over the western region, and orographic influences of the monsoon. What I'm linking is that because the monsoon system generally is ocean and the highland. It's the atmospheric interaction that is very crucial to develop the monsoon system in the Himalayan, Tibetan Plateau, and the surrounding region. That's why there is several resources already highlighted that there is a strong relationship with the ENSO, especially in the especially the El-Nino influences in the monsoonal precipitation, rainfall behaviors in the Himalayan regions. This is actually the interannual variability of monsoon rainfall and stream flow in Nepal generally are correlated in Southern Oscillation Index, the El-Nino Southern Oscillation. There is also relationship between Indian summer monsoon. Several studies are over there have a relationship between El-Nino events and the rainfall, and not only in the rainfall event, but also to the stream flow and the lake level variation that is also in the snowfall variations. There are different parts of the world and have the different influences about the El-Nino and the La Nina events. And the some other in countries like in the basically, and so El-Nino answer is related to the snowfall. And what are the fundamental impacts from the El-Nino? It's a climate pattern that develops in the Pacific Ocean due to warm trade winds, and which modifies the weather patterns throughout the world. In the Tibetan Plateau regions, and so relations of the Tibetan Plateau region is important role in the modulation of the hydroclimate. And during the El-Nino, there is increase in the draft potential to increase of the draft conditions in the Indian subcontinent. While in the La Nina phase, La Nina events, there is an increase in the excess of potential to increase in the excess in rainfall. And on the other hand, and the warm phase as El Nino and is associated with the heavy rainfall, flooding, and the extreme weather events in certain parts of the world. There are different places have the different kind of influences of the El Nino event. While in the cold phases, it's known as the La Nina and is associated with cooler temperature and drier condition in some areas. And the El Nino events are associated generally in the meteorological extremes, such as drought and heavy monsoon in South Asia. However, El Nino events have been linked to the climate anomaly resulting water shortage in Ethiopia. That's enhanced precipitation during the winter season associated with the El Nino in Israel. And what impacts are there actually from the ENSO, especially on the monsoon and the hydroclimate and in our regions? Basically, if the small changes, obviously, that is sea surface temperature, if the small changes in the sea surface temperature obviously influences to the synoptic phenomena, influence to the monsoon system in the South Asia and impacting the socioeconomic conditions in the region. It directly impacts the rainfall. Rainfall, if it impact the rainfall, obviously impact to the agriculture's livelihoods and economy, and also develop the extreme events cause for the flood and landslides due to the heavy precipitations. And if there is a drought conditions, that is also influence to the agriculture sector. And the impact of El Nino on landslides exposure can be greater. Then the several studies emphasize that greater in parts of the South Asia and the Latin America due to the seasonal rainfall variability. And the long-term variations in the strength of El Nino events generally and the controls the decadal trends of the Indian summer monsoon. And also the research also found that there is a correlation with the Nino 3.4 index. And if the warm and cool phases have varying effects on the monsoon rainfall, it is seen that in the El Nino events connected with the droughts, monsoon with excess rainfall characterized La Nina years area. And some of the researches also highlighted that the El Nino impacts to the stream flows and generally found in the eastern part of Nepal, that is the below normal, and the La Nina produces generally in the above normal stream flows in Nepal, basically in the western part. And some of the research found that there was in snowfall increase in snowfall in Jerusalem, Israel, and some other researchers found there is a positive correlation between rainfall and the El Nino years that affect the precipitation patterns. And the other important aspects is that in the Tibetan Plateau is the moisture budget that shows that the suppressed vertical motion and the deficit of moisture that contributed to the reduction of the in southeastern Tibetan Plateau rainfall during the El Nino developing summer. And there is also found that the dramatic lake shrinkages on the central Tibetan Plateau region developing in 1970 to 1998 and 2015 and 2016 during the El Nino events. And another one is the impacts of landslides triggered by rainfall are likely modulated by the strength of the El Nino. What is the global, if we when talking about the global perspective, that is this phenomena is not the phenomena that influence the in our region and in one specific places, but also to the global weather patterns, global climate patterns, because it's because of the altering the atmospheric and oceanic conditions in the tropical Pacific Ocean. Generally, its impacts and teleconnection refer to the ways which El Nino events can affect weather patterns and climate conditions, such as drought, floods, and change in temperature and precipitation. This can also affect the global climate through its influence on the atmospheric circulation, ocean currents, heat and moisture exchange process between the atmosphere and ocean. Also cause changes in temperature and precipitation pattern around the world, which this is also leading extreme weather events such as drought, floods, and the hurricanes. And for example, during the El Nino event, the Western Pacific experiences trough, while the Eastern Pacific experiences heavy rainfall. In contrast, in the La Nina events, La Nina times, the opposite phenomenon occurs with the Western Pacific experience heavy rainfall and the Eastern Pacific experience drought. Is it affect? This is a very important question. That is it affecting the global warming? The El Nino events or the La Nina events has been affecting by the global warming? Yes, it's changing from the effect of the contemporary global warming. There are still the questions still remains unclear because the research have been going on, but actual information and actual results outputs is still not documented. But in some of the researchers have highlighted that the El Nino changes with the global warming, whether we can anticipate decades with extreme El Nino. Some of the work emphasize that overall strengthening of the INSO variability since 1955. That is culminating in the extreme El Nino events that is coinciding with the increasing of the anthropogenic greenhouse gas, especially the carbon dioxide, along with the rising of the global mean temperature. This raises the questions whether this increase in the El Nino amplitude could be due to the global warming or not. But should be worse impacts on the global climate and weather conditions due to the high variation in temperatures, upwelling, resulting in the several hurricanes in the Pacific Ocean, frequent tornadoes in the Atlantic Ocean, and destructive tropical cyclones and tsunamis in the Indo-Pacific, and the hot summer ocean water. If there is an amplitude, increasing frequency of the amplitude of the ENSO events, El Nino events, La Nina events, obviously enhance our triggering these extreme events or triggering to the natural calamities, triggering to the disasters, potential disasters that they would have the chances. And talking about the future perspective, it is a very challenging task to predict about the El Nino or ENSO event, and because if we can able to predict that, obviously we can assess, or we can examine, or we can have a knowledge about the future potentiality about the hydroclimatic impacts, ecosystem impacts, lands and agricultural impact. But scientists have been studying about the INSO to better understand its impacts on the global climate and to improve the climate prediction model. Even the definition of the scientific understanding of El Nino are continuously evolving, but no simple model explains the apparent diversity in El Nino to explain the El Nino mechanisms, processes, as well as for the modeling. And the predictability in the horizon is individual El Nino events is thought to be about 6 to months, depending on the season and also the phase of the INSO cycle. But this understanding the occurrences of the several phenomena is crucial in predicting the mitigation of their impacts on global weather conditions. But the rising of strong El Nino events on decadal time scale is a very unpredictable. It's a very difficult task, and it could be emphasized in the future directions to more in-depth studies on this aspect too. And the conclusion, to answer the impacts of global warming and INSO, but we need to understand what causes INSO modulation and also develop tools to distinguish those extremely forced from internally generated, and which would help to detect the emerging INSO changes induced by the global warming. Because of the contemporary tools, technology, our methods is still insufficient to explain and the future situations and future scenario of the ENSO events, El Nino events, La Nina events. And this is very important to know the predicting weather patterns and developing strategies to adapt to changing climate conditions. However, there is still no model to predict accurately. This is unfortunate. This is actually a natural phenomena, and then we cannot predict the El Nino on decadal scale. Precaution and the environmental protection are crucial measures to cope with the El Nino events consequences. And in many times, normally I share my views because in our zone, in our region where we live, in the South Asian land masses, is located in such a zone that the calamities like floods, landslides, heavy precipitation, and earthquake are inborn disaster for us. And protecting our natural heritage and taking precaution is the only solution to cope from the natural calamities. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Katal. It was a very nice presentation giving us the impacts on floods and landslides over the region. And it was a good insight for all those impacts which we will be facing in the background of El Nino and La Nina. Now we have our last presenter, Dr. Sher Mohammed. Dr. Sher Mohammed is part of EC Board, and he has also a graduate from China. That is the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and he has an expertise in the global lakes and snow monitoring. The floor is yours, Dr. Sher Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zahid Saab, and good afternoon, everyone. So I will talk a little different than the other presenters. So I would like to link some changes in glaciers and snow in high altitudes and in the context of Pakistan and its relation with the recent events of El Nino last year and also with the climate change. I will also present some case studies regarding the impacts, both in terms of water resources and some hazards that occurred in the recent past. Glaciers are actually important because it's provide water for around 240 billion people in the HKH region, and these water resources are sufficient for about 1.9 billion people's food security worldwide, which is about 1/3 of the global population. But the changing climate is actually reducing the ice mass in these high altitude regions. So with present temperature rise, which is about 1.5 degrees, about half of the ice will be lost in the high altitude regions. And if the temperature rises to 2 degrees, it will it will cause 2/3 of the ice mass to be lost by the end of the century. Not only the future changes, but in the recent past, we have more accurate and high resolution assessment of the glacier mass changes worldwide, and that assessment indicates that in the recent past decades, since 2010, the glacier mass loss is increased by around 65% compared to the first decade of the century. So if you look into all these graphs, the last graph is about the last 10 years, and the middle one is from 2000 to 2009, and the first one is from 1975 to 2000. So in the recent past, even in the Karakoram, which is known for as Karakoram anomaly, so the recent 10 years, glaciers have lost mass in this region as well. So one impact is due to these melting of these glaciers. It causes the developing of new glacier lakes, and which converts to glacier lake outburst floods. One such event occurred in Shishpur, which was caused by a glacier surge of Shishpur Glacier back in 2018, which caused blockage of Hassanabad Nala and that Nala was also fed by another glacier, which is Muchuhar Glacier, and that caused, which is indicated in the blue box here. So this caused a lake formation since 2019, and every year this lake outburst and caused severe damages. And so since 1850, for around 150 years in the past, there are around 146 events occurred only in this in the northern Pakistan region, and only this event caused a loss of around 4 million USD. This is only to the property, to the private property. This doesn't include the public property losses in this region. So only scientific assessment is actually not enough. We have to communicate these assessment to public, through social media, and also some news papers. As the last event that was occurred on 7th May, so we issued an alert on 4th of May about this event, and this was also reported just a day before by BBC, and based on our alert, they also get our feedback and get our scientific assessment and including in this news article. And this also, in addition to the assessment by PMD and other national institutes who were working on this event, were also help the people to evacuate and do manage this flood caused by the glacier lake outburst. Besides glacier, the second component, which is very important, which is snow, and it covers a vast area in this region, but it is it's very difficult to monitor because of the changing behavior and the changes of snow. And the melting and accumulation actually affects downstream water availability for agriculture and hydropower. And the snow melt is more important than glacier melt because this melt contributes to about 40% of the runoff, which is 8 times more than that of glaciers. And due to the changing climate, the snowfall and snow melt patterns are becoming more unpredictable and occur much earlier or later in the year, and some El-Nino events are also have some significant impacts. I would like to share some of the recent assessments. So this is the situation of snow this winter and spring. So all the major river basins in the HKH region received above normal snow this year, and this graph shows the last 20 years snow accumulation in the winter season. So if you look into the last year, it is highest in the last 20 years, which is about 53% above normal. And in the past 2 decades, 13 years actually received below normal snow, and 9 years received above normal. And the pattern is the above normal situation of snow cover increases from west to east. So the west received less above normal, but in the eastern it is much higher. And in Pakistan, there was a landslide occurred, avalanche occurred actually in a Stor Valley, which was highlighted because there were some casualties and losses to lives. And we assessed the situation, and up to snow, so we found that there is the snowfall is much higher than normal this year, and this was one of the reason or triggering point of this avalanche that occurred. Not only this year, but last year we have some anomalous snowfall and snow cover in the region, and particularly in the Andes, we have below normal snow from average, and there it was in El-Nino year, so we found several heat waves, particularly in the month of April and May, and in the northern Pakistan, the temperature was 5 to 7 degrees above normal, which caused significant snow melt early in the season in April and May, and in the dry season in June there was less water available. So we assessed this snow cover pattern and also reported the issue. And in May we reported that there is the snow is less in the high altitude, and the forecast of weather forecast was also indicated less snow rainfall in the early summer season, so which actually made the situation severe. And even like in June, there was less water available in Sindh and in the lower part of the Indus Basin. So this actually such kind of regular assessment are very useful to tackle with any impacts of changes in glaciers and snow. So that is what I just wanted to give an overview. And it's not only useful for the water resources, but also useful to manage hazards and disasters. And only scientific assessment covering one aspect, like only assessing the snow or glaciers is not sufficient. We have to do a multidisciplinary research to link the changes that are happening in the cryosphere, including glaciers and snow, and their downstream impacts. And it's important to coordinate such changes to stakeholders to tackle such downstream impact assessment and manage like water resources and other issues. And science to policy communications are also very important, because sometimes the assessment doesn't reach to the to stakeholders and policymakers. So this is important to highlight. So with this, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sher Mohammed Saab. Very nice presentation, giving us your work regarding the cryosphere. With this, we come to the conclusion. We have all the 4 presentations here now. Maybe we have a time for a quick question answer session. So with the permission of organizers, if we have some questions from the participants, we can take those. And if we have a small discussion, we can do it, because we are already up to the time. And for 1 or 2 questions, maybe we can have some.
Dr. Babar, we have few questions in the question answers box. You can entertain the participants with their answer from relevant.
Yeah, so we both
maybe we have one more question for Dr. Sher Mohammed Saab, that how the glaciers are monitored and how we can find out the depth of the snow. So we have 2 questions, and the rest of the questions, I think Dr. Ahad Wazifi have answered them. So maybe we can take 1 question before the closing remarks. Please, Dr. Sher Mohammed.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, there are several ways to monitor glaciers. If we look back to around a decade back, there were very limited data available, and we were only able to assess the glacier area changes, but the data for the glacier volume, glacier health was very limited. And the global or regional scale assessment were not that good as that is now. There are several very high resolution data which are used for the glacier mass changes estimate. That is the best way to assess the glacier's health, in which we do estimate the surface elevation changes using DEM from satellite data and then compare this normally with a gap of 5 to 10 years to assist decadal or annual changes in glacial mass. So this gives us how much ice or how much accumulation occurred in that period and how much ice is lost. So this the melt and the accumulation, the difference between them gives us an idea how the glaciers are changing. This gives us whether the glaciers are stable, the glaciers are losing mass, or the glaciers are gaining mass. So this is the way we do glacier monitoring. And about snow, actually there are it's more complicated to assess because the pattern or snow changes very rapidly with time, and it's like it's difficult to measure on the ground because we have very limited observations in the region, and that didn't provide full spatial coverage, so we have to rely on remote sensing or modeling data, and remote sensing data has some limitations. Like the most widely used data is MODIS, which gives us the daily time scale snow cover pattern, and that is the best which is available so far. There are other satellites and sensors that are capable to assist the snow changes, but MODIS, because of its high temporal resolution, this is widely used, and we have actually developed 2 snow products, and we have removed the clouds. That is one of the hindrances, so we have an improved snow product. And not only the cloud cover is removed, but we have also removed some more estimations. So the 2 products are publicly available and widely used in this region, and that gives a better estimate of the snow situation in the region. I hope I answered your questions. If not, please let me know if there is any explanation required.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sher Mohammed, for a very elaborate answer. I think we have come to the conclusion, and for that, for the concluding remarks, I may request Dr. Mehwish Durrani. She is the Additional Director of International Cooperation and Head of CCCS at COMSET's headquarters, and she has a doctoral degree in the Government and Public Policy, and her research specialization is in environmental governance. So, Dr. Durrani, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zahir, for moderating the session. At the end of this informative webinar on El-Nino and its effects on Global South, I would like to thank each of you on behalf of COMSET and the COMSET Center for Climate and Sustainability, and especially to our experts for their enthusiastic participation, insightful comments, and dedication to address the challenges posed by this complex weather phenomenon. Over the course of this webinar, we have a fusion of ideas from diverse backgrounds, regions, and expertise, all driven by a common goal to understand El-Nino better and to explore opportunities for a resilient future in the Global South. The wealth of knowledge and experiences shared by our esteemed speakers and participants has reinforced our confidence in the potential of collaboration. The discussions have shed light on the far-reaching impacts of El-Nino on vulnerable regions, urging us to act decisively to build resilience. We have learned that the consequences of El-Nino extend beyond meteorological changes. They intertwine with socio-economic factors, posing formidable challenges that require comprehensive solutions. On behalf of CCCS, I assure you that the insights gained here today will not merely reside with the confines of this virtual space. We are committed to translating these discussions into actionable strategies that resonates with the realities faced by the Global South. CCCS will continue to foster South-South collaboration resource sharing, and technology transfer to assist its member countries in their fight against climate change. I'm really grateful to my CCCS team and Secretariat team for their hard work and professionalism in organizing this webinar to the benefit of all of our attendees. I'm very fortunate and honored to be leading such a dedicated team. I wish you all the best and thanking you all for having been with us today, and a very good evening to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I would like to request you all, please switch on your cameras so we can have a group picture.
Can everybody please switch on their cameras so that we can have good picture?
Dr. Vanessa, please.
Dr. Vanessa, are you there?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. See you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Barber.
Thank you.